Tony Roberts and I first met when he was doing Promises, Promises. He had actually won an incredible London Critics Award for Promises, Promises in London. He did it, of course, on Broadway. He based on The Apartment, the movie, and I loved when he said, "Miss Kubelik, Miss Kubelik," and every time I saw Tony, I'd say, "Miss Kubelik." We tried so hard to work together, and finally, darn it, during pandemic no less, we did the Mornings at 7 revival together. So I thank Tony, and I hope we'll work again together. Okay.
Hope so.
While he's looking, I opened I was at Paramount. I was at the ABC network, and then I went to Walter Reed in the television division. Then I went into the theater division. And at 27, I was the youngest head of a major theater chain in the history of the country, or so Variety said. And I then went to Paramount for a couple of years, and that was the 2 worst years of my life as a vocation. Not because of Paramount as much as the studio system. It was just not for me. It wasn't the waters I could swim in, because I was really interested in making movies, and while people there, that was part of their job, most of the interest in studios were perpetuating their power. That was number 1, number 2, number 3. And while I didn't want to lose power, it wasn't, I was trying to figure out a way to run a studio, which I never was able to do. So I opened my own company called Castle Hill Productions, and what Tony will be reading is one of the calls I got running a film distribution company. Just quickly, I had great classics, Stagecoach by John Ford, I had To Be or Not to Be by Lubitsch, I had Foreign Correspondent with Alfred Hitchcock, so I had a wonderful classic library, but I was always looking for new films. Take it away, Tony.
Oh, got it. Scorsese and Fellini. Martin Scorsese called our office. I can't say that we knew each other very well, but he had appeared on my radio show, and I had interviewed him for a film I produced called Hollywood Uncensored. He wanted me to know that Fellini's last 2 films were available for U.S. distribution. One was called La Luna, and the other, Intervista. These titles translated to The Moon and Interview, respectively. I screened them both, and though I didn't respond to La Luna, I liked Intervista a lot. It starred Marcello Mastroianni and Anita Ekberg, who had been the stars of Fellini's early hit, La Dolce Vita. At that time, Miss Ekberg, was considered by many to be the most beautiful woman in the world. In Intervista, Fellini and Mastroianni pay a surprise visit to her home, where we find she has aged and gained weight. But within the movie, an amazing thing happens. A cassette of La Dolce Vita is put on, and Ekberg watches herself as a young, gorgeous woman. And Fellini, with the help of his cameraman and director of photography, shows us a radiant and dazzling older Anita Ekberg viewing the film. It is one of the most extraordinarily moving moments in any Fellini film, and it's done with warmth, style, and love. Marty and I presented the film in Italian with English subtitles. The New York Times gave it a rave review, and we did business. It meant a lot to me to present a Fellini movie with Scorsese. I was proud to be associated with both of them, but I also knew how to answer the question often posed in elementary school tests: which one doesn't belong? The chance to be associated with these 2 titans of film was an incredible privilege for me, and one I will never forget.
Lovely.
I'm so excited. We are with the incredible Tony Roberts. Tony, What are you doing now? I last saw you at mornings at 7. So what are you working on now?
Well, I'm trying to write something for the first time seriously in my life. I'm trying to write a fiction novel based on 70 books I read as audiobooks for Simon & Schuster and Penguin Audio, written by the recently deceased Stuart Woods. And I read 70 of his books, and unfortunately, he passed away, and I don't know if there'll be any more of his books, unless they're written from the other side of the grave.
Now we're here because it is a book launching for Julian.
Yeah.
How did you work with Julian?
Well, I was on Julian's radio program decades ago as a guest to be interviewed for his program. And he then asked me a few decades later to take a role in Mornings at 7, which opened last year, not far from this very spot. But the COVID epidemic caused us to have to close early. So that's the last thing I did.
Is there a role that you'd like to take on that you haven't had a chance to take on yet?
I always answered that question by saying Henry V, because that's the film that influenced me the most when I was a kid. I was taken to see the Olivier movie of it, and I was smitten. But I never got to play it, and it's a little late now.
You've acted, but have you ever wanted to direct or do other things in the industry?
Well, I did direct a play by Charles Grodin about, years ago, that opened and had a fairly successful run, I think. He wrote a very funny play about an opening night with a lot of actors in it, and I was privileged to be the director of that.
Can we see you direct again?
I have no idea. If the phone rings, maybe.
And what haven't I asked you that you would like our audience to know about you?
That I was very blessed and very lucky, and that I had a very satisfying career among these blocks. I was in 23 Broadway shows, and some of them closed in 5 minutes, and some of them ran for a year or 2 or 3. But I was very lucky. I mean, you need a lot of luck in this business.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.